All right, we're going to get started here. And today's webinar is 17 ways to guarantee nobody misses your next webinar. There's a lot of steps, let me tell you. And I want to let you know up front, I did a little research and there's a website called HubSpot.com. I'm going to share these links later. They're top-notch marketing company out of Cambridge, Massachusetts, and they do tons of webinars. So I'm like, why not go to people that do them all the time? So I've got an outline from them, and I'm just going to kind of embellish it and add to what I've learned in my own experience doing webinars. So I'm going to introduce myself since I'm recording this. My name is Liz Garcia. I'm founder of the Mind, Body, Spirit Network, as well as New Mouse Media. And I help my members and clients with their online marketing efforts wherever they may be in the process. And conducting webinars and webinar marketing is a great strategy, but it takes quite a bit of effort just to get your first one up and going. But once it's going, I'm finding it easier just to keep moving and doing more and more. So it's that first hurdle to get over, and then they become easier. So let me get this. Can never get the slideshow to work. Sorry. Hold on. Let me, if I click on it. Here we go. All right. So this would be a good one to open up the mute all, Deborah, because why would anyone want to do a webinar? And I'd like to get some ideas. Anyone want to chime in why you would do a webinar? Get brand exposure, for sure, right? Generate leads, right? Cheryl?
Yeah, to meet people, to get people to meet me, an introduction on what I'm like, to kind of get to work with me, have an opportunity to see what I'm all about, even have the opportunity to ask questions at the end of the webinar.
Well, yeah, definitely. To teach people something valuable. Mm-hmm. It's a great way to introduce people to what you do and how you are. And I think, you know, when anytime someone can meet you, it's huge. Without being you don't have to be a salesperson to give a webinar. I mean, of course, it's nice to close some deals at the end of it all, but I think just relaxing into it and sharing your expertise is a great marketing tool that is worth way more than anything else you can do, I would say. Anyone else have any other ideas about why do webinars? No hands there. All right, we'll just keep going. That's all right.
Can you hear me?
Yeah. Oh, hey, Stephanie.
Hi there. Sorry, I'm driving, so I'm just on speaker.
Okay.
My thought is, so I have a presentation that I can give before a group of people, but I know that I need to kind of tweak that to be more in a webinar format, because that's not then dependent upon somebody inviting you to come speak to their group, right? I mean, you then control it.
Yes.
And so I like that. I also like the idea of, I love in-person workshops because there's something that's very fulfilling for that. But this can be anytime, any day you can do a webinar. So I'm excited to hear what you have to share.
Cool. Yes, I agree. The freedom of that for all you world travelers out there. I've had many webinars where the host was in all over the country, somewhere in the country, enjoying their life, making money and having webinars and saying, oh yeah, and by the way, I'm going to hop down into the piazza for a little cappuccino with some hot Tony, Scooby-Doo. All right. So there's a lot of good reasons to do webinars, but it takes some effort to do them right and get them up and going. And if your first one's a bomb, that's okay. I had a bomb a couple weeks ago. No one showed up. And it could have been a time of day thing. So we're going to get to that. All right. So 17 ways to guarantee nobody's going to miss your webinars. First of all, you got to have a good topic. What's that topic going to be about? And you want to make sure it's like super value driven. So you got to look at the topic and then turn it around on yourself and say, what are people going to leave here with? Make sure they're going to leave there with something of value that's going to give them an impression of like, oh, I want to keep working with this person. And I have to say, when Deborah and Cheryl both did a meditation, that's all I needed. I'm like, oh, okay, I want to do more of this. Right? Just as an example. I'm not quite sure how I'd necessarily weave that into a webinar, but there's definitely opportunity to do that. The webinar could simply be a meditation on a particular topic that leaves someone feeling a lot better at the end of it. It could be as simple as that. But it needs to be compelling and unique to you. So just some topic tips. It has to be broad enough to attract an audience. Like how, you got to be pretty broad, but at the same time specific enough so that someone can get an immediate result, put something into action right away, takeaways that they can go and do and put into play immediately. So that's another key part of a webinar tip. And a lot of webinars are telling people what to do and why, and not necessarily how to do it. So for this example here, I'm telling you what to do in webinars. Some key steps you need to take for a successful webinar. And I'm not selling this today or offering this today, but it certainly is coming up that what I would propose at the end of this is I have a group class where I sell training on how to go from zero to webinar would be my offering. And I'm thinking it's going to be like an 8-week group course type of thing and all the details that would fill it in, because as I'm doing this webinar, I'm like, I could make this into 4 webinars, and I'm like, I should just make a class and call it a day. So anyway, what is this webinar going to lead to? You got to make sure you have that in mind. You don't want to leave anyone high and dry, which is what I was going to do for you today, but I'm not. So consider, if people are really enjoying what they're learning, what's the next step for them to take? And it's good to have something in place, whatever it may be. So the next step in your webinar success is set registration goals. And you may have to do a little, work, like, all right, how many people are on my mail list, for example? How many friends can I contact? How many people can you get to register for the webinar? That's the first step. And write that down. And if it's only 10 people, that's okay. All right, so you want to set a goal for it. So you have something, this is law of attraction at work. It's like putting your focus on something, write it down, and then maybe do a little figuring, how am I going to get to that number? And then you want to set an attendee goal. And HubSpot, who does a lot of webinars and has much bigger audiences than I attract at the moment, say 25% is what they're experiencing. It used to be 50% several years ago, but I see that it's dropped based on their thing, probably because there's a proliferation of webinars. So if you set a goal of 10 people registering, to get 2 to 3 people to show up is reasonable. More than that, fantastic. Next up is you want to give attendees what I call a Swell Prize. And you guys are getting a Swell Prize after you sit through this long and tedious slideshow. You're going to get my ultimate webinar checklist. So, and I could offer something else, if I were really marketing this and trying to, drive more people to the webinar, and maybe the first 5 people that show up on the webinar get, a consultation with me or something free from me, whatever it is. But what I'm saying now is, if you stick through this webinar, you're going to want to, because I've got this ultimate website checklist for you that you're going to download, and then you're going to print it out every time you do a webinar, and you're going to have a little checkbox. That's my Swell Prize. Okay. So a lot of people have found that you could have a lot of people attend a webinar, but then they bail out or they don't pay attention. There's a lot of software that can tell when somebody's, surfing the web while you're doing the webinar. So you want to keep someone's attention, and offering something that will keep them engaged till the end is a good thing. So That's the next step, to have someone actually paying attention to your webinar. Next up is choosing the right day of the week. How do you like that picture? That was a lucky find. I'm like, oh, that's a fun picture. And HubSpot, who is all business to business, B2B, that's what B2B is. It's a business to business company, has found that business to business webinars do well Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. You got to just see who your audience is to really determine what that would be. And it's a good idea to run a little survey. You know, if you have a list of people you can ask, send them a quickie email and say, what day of the week works best for you? What time of day works best for you? And I do have that survey running now for this particular group. And most of those responses, actually the top response is a Tuesday, which was surprising. I'm like, oh, maybe my intuition is working. I don't know. Listen to that. And then Wednesday was the other day for this particular group where there was interest in doing this. So it's a good idea to ask. If you don't have enough of an audience to ask, then you're going to have to just wing it and see what happens. Now, okay, so the next part of the equation is time of day. Again, my darn slideshow doesn't want to move forward. Here we go. Choose the right time of day. That's going to depend on who your target market is. Are they stay-at-home moms? That makes it easy. You know, just don't do it during kiddie nap time. Are they solopreneurs? Are they practitioners of some sort, like a lot of my people are? Or are they working? If they're full-time working, they can't be doing webinars in the middle of the day. It's going to kind of have to come at night or weekends or something like that. So HubSpot, which is, again, they're a B2B player, says that 1 p.m. or 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time is the best times of day for them. And I've had webinars, B2B webinars, that they're all around the same time of day because people can have lunch, they can take a break, you know. If they're a practitioner of some sort, they would typically take a lunch break, you know, whatever. And I did test a 6 p.m. webinar last week. That's where I had no shows. There was nobody there, except for Connor. She came to be my co-host. So I'm like, that didn't work, 6 p.m. But I have a client who she offers she trains healers to help develop their intuition. And she said she was getting skunked on webinar times until she did a 6 o'clock, and then everyone showed up. So that was a great revelation for her. So you might have to do some testing on that, or at the very least ask or find other people that are doing what you're doing and see what time they're offering webinars, especially people that are pretty well known, that you can follow them, you know, find some leaders in your field and see what they're doing so that you don't have to guess. So day and time totally matters. And for me, it definitely mattered when no one showed up at 6 o'clock. I'm like, that's no good. Okay. You want to create a really informative registration page. So it's got to be some type of landing page. You're going to make sure who's going to be given the presentation and who are they? Why do they have any expertise? What's the topic of the webinar? And then, of course, the when and the where are they going to happen, you know, and if it's going to be online, you're going to have some sort of link and access information you're going to have to give people. And then why are you giving the webinar? You know, what's the point of the webinar? So the point of this particular webinar is to inform my followers as to how to do a webinar properly and all the steps to take to be successful. And then ultimately, my ultimate intention is to kind of strengthen the following that I have, give people awareness that I can help them in many ways. And actually, if I come up with a program to do this with somebody in a group format, a coaching format, that I'll have someone that would be interested in participating in that. So I want to share with you my registration page, which I use a service called Lead Pages. And Lead Pages has templates that are proven to convert, meaning they just work. And they have templates just for webinar registration. So here's what this sales webinar looks like. And a big claim your spot button right here so people can register. And then if you scroll down, it's got this time clock ticking off to the day and time of that next webinar. It has a little bit something about me. So here's the date and time. Here's a little bit about me. And here's the detail of everything that you're going to learn in the webinar. So I've got 10 different bullet points. I'm saying yes, claim my spot. When I click on it, it's going to pop up. It's not going to do it today, of course. There we go. Pops up a registration form. They fill it in, and now they're populating my MailChimp list for webinar registrants for this particular webinar. And yeah.
So when you're using this on Lead Pages, are they landing that, or are you providing a landing page through your website?
What I would do, Deborah, is I run social media posts to drive people to this page, which is, it's a standalone page, but I can also publish it through my website. Either way, you can have a page on your website, or you can use Lead Pages, which is a little more involved service, but I use it for marketing purposes because it gives me a lot of information that I need. And it helps me create a template that all of their resources saying this template converts. So you don't have to guess. Okay. All right. So did I answer your question, or not?
I think I figured it out.
Okay. So you want a webinar any type of page, webinar registration or opt-in page to really stand alone. You don't want distractions that a website can provide. If you're on a website, there's too many distractions. So you get rid of all the navigation. It's just a standalone page. You can create it on your website, but I use Lead Pages to create it and then publish it to my website. So,
and all you're publishing is the link?
Yes, I publish the link to it, yes.
Okay.
Yep. And then people here can share it on Facebook, Twitter. If they have a friend, they can share this page too, which is a beautiful thing.
Okay, cool.
And I'm using a hashtag so that people want to follow me. If they, tell Twitter anytime transformational marketing webinar comes up, hashtag that, then they'll start. It's I'm not really using it fully yet, but it's recommended to create a hashtag for your webinar so that people that are, Twitter savvy or hashtag savvy know how to say, all right, every time this hashtag shows up, I want to see it. So it's a good practice to get into. And then I'm getting ahead of myself, but I'm going to do it anyway right now. After I opt in to this, so I click this, I give my email, I'm redirected immediately to this page, which is a thank you page, which is saying, hey, you're registered. Mark it on your calendar right here. And then I speak in a video. This automatically starts to talk so that someone doesn't have to push the play button, but it says, thanks for registering. You're clear, you're good to go. And then here, this little tool inside of Lead Pages will populate my Outlook calendar if I click on it. See, it's ready to populate my Outlook, which isn't open at the moment. But that's a nice tool so that if anyone's using these tools, it'll populate their calendar and send them a reminder, which is a great additional step to take to make sure you get on someone's calendar. Okay. So let's resume this. Is there any questions so far? Looks like not yet. Okay. So next, you want to start sending this email automation stream. So when someone registers, it's going to trigger that first email that says, congratulations, you're registered. Here's the information again. Even though they're getting redirected to that thank you page, you want them to get the email as well, because it's going to have all the links and information they're going to add to their calendar. And then what I do in my follow-up email is I invite people to join me on social media. I ask them to like my page or join my private Facebook group or join this online meetup group. And I'm finding that 30% of the people that opt in to something for me join these groups, which is like, I'm covering a lot of territory now. I'm getting people interested in my Facebook group and my online meetup and my page. Wherever you want to send them, take that opportunity to welcome them into your tribe, sort of, right? After you get, what I'm doing in the automation stream for this is, first of all, they immediately get thank you for registering. And then an hour later, I send a welcome to my tribe email. It's sort of what it is. I don't necessarily call it that. Where I then say, if you want to connect further and learn more about online marketing, join these groups. And I'm trying to keep those emails short, but I can't, I'm not very good at that. But 30% of people that are first time leads are joining those groups. So that's a great thing to get started, because now you're building more awareness and community around what you're doing. Okay, next up, depending on how far out you start marketing this webinar, and we're going to get to that on the webinar checklist, it could be 2 to 3 weeks out. And for you guys, just starting a month out isn't a bad idea. I wouldn't necessarily run paid ads a month out, but you'd want to start warming people up, warming your list up to what's coming. I don't think registering people a month out for a webinar, I think it's too far out. People that do a lot of these are saying 10 days out is enough, because you don't want people to forget about you. And that's what I'm doing now. I'm doing 10 days out for each upcoming webinar or week. That's it. I could do more for sure, but for you guys, you got to keep it tight so people don't forget about it. And during that 10 days, outside of just the automation stream that's saying yes, you're registered, you want to send out, like, if it's 10 days out, maybe you send 2 days later, you're going to send an email that's really value driven, giving them like a little tidbit of what they're going to find out in the webinar. So maybe you send out 2 emails like that are just bait. Like, hey, you want to know how to, you want to know what day of the week is best for webinars, time and day of week? That would be a little tidbit. I'd plant a seed, say, we're going to have to show up at the webinar to find out. You can guess, but you show up into the webinar. So maybe you're going to send 2 more emails between when they register and the day of the webinar, just to keep the momentum going and the interest building. You're definitely going to need to send reminders. You want to send one the day before. And if my webinars are at noon or afternoon, I'm sending a reminder like at 9 o'clock in the morning Eastern time, and then an hour before it starts. You have to be that persistent, or people will show up. So you got to make sure you have that up and ready to go. And once you have all this set up, like in MailChimp, for example, I just replicate these emails. I don't have to recreate them all. They're already done. I replicate it, and then I just tell it when to go out again. Okay. You want to use social media to market your webinar. And I'm doing this right now, and I'm testing different images. I'm testing different copy. I'm testing different hashtags. And I'm getting a lot of response everywhere. Like Twitter, when I send out Twitter and I say free webinar on Twitter, I get like tons of followers all of a sudden. So marketing is a big deal on Twitter for me, for whatever reason. Even though I really want to promote my mind, body, spirit people, I got a lot of marketers following me on Twitter. LinkedIn is huge. That's my most responsive platform right now, I'm noticing, when it comes to promoting my webinars. And I have over, I think, close to 2,000 connections now. I'm really I'm getting a lot of traction on LinkedIn, which is surprising to me, actually, as opposed to Facebook, because Facebook doesn't give me the visibility I want. You know, you got to pay to play on Facebook. So I'll do posts on Facebook, and you got to test pictures, and it's fun to test pictures. So if you're going to do a webinar, get a really captivating picture that really captures what you are about, and put some text on that picture. So it could just say free webinar, you know, get your daily OM on or something. Be grateful for OM, whatever, something catchy and fun you can put in words over the picture, and then just start testing them. See what people respond to. And I get a lot of varied responses on different images, so it's worth testing. But you want to get out there in social media, and you got to tell people what to do. So if you're scheduling a post about a webinar, you want to say, share this with someone you know will love it, or if you love it, like it, you know, tell people what to do. You want them to respond in social media and take a step, as well as register. And that's free. It's your time. Another great strategy is to have a strategic partner to help you market your webinar. And or like Cheryl, anyone who's my co-host is kind of this, it's not necessarily a strategic partner, but it's a partner. I should not have used this word in this particular slide, but you want to have someone partner with you and be your co-host, because it helps to keep the webinar moving. It's nice to see interaction between people. It keeps the energy up. And then you have someone who is kind of watching what's going on, seeing if there's hands getting raised, encouraging people to ask questions in the chat box, which I haven't done yet. If you have any questions, you guys, that you want to put in the chat, please do, and we can get to that as it comes up, or I'm happy to stop and to do that. But I really encourage you to have a co-host. And I'm feeling like if I do this webinar training offering, I think part of the deal would be for me to co-host your first webinar. And that's what I did with Cheryl, just to help her get off the ground. It's like, it's nice to have someone speak about you, that knows you, that can help run the show. And for me now, I have a lot of members that need practice. So it works. I'm happy to give them exposure and practice on how to do it. So I highly recommend you have a wingman on your webinar. All right, any questions up to this point, ladies? No questions. All right.
I think Rita had a question.
Oh, Rita, cool.
It's in the chat.
Do you have a checklist that we could attain to go through a list of things to create that first webinar?
Yes. That's my Swell Prize if you sit through all of this.
Oh.
You get the checklist at the end of this.
Yes.
And you're also going to get a link to this outline for this presentation, so you can look at it again and see what HubSpot has to say about it. And then HubSpot has some great links and referral stuff as well that'll bring you to all kinds of information you need to know about developing a webinar.
Okay, I have one more question.
Yes.
Approximately how many hours do you think it takes to create this first webinar? Because in that first one, there's a lot of background work to be done.
Good question. Well, I'm a little bit excessive in making sure everything's done properly. I think a good solid 40 hours is not too much to put into your first webinar, because you got to create a presentation, you got to outline the topic. The marketing alone, it's a good amount of time. Finding, creating the marketing materials to market the webinar, So let me and then this presentation, building a presentation, that could easily take you a day. Easily.
Okay, thanks. That's helpful. Yeah.
But I'm going to give you a tip that there's and I'll add the link later, but creativemarket.com is a graphic design resource to buy beautiful templates for slideshows. That's what I'm using now. I'm using a template. You find one that fits your brand, and a lot of them come with different color variations that you can adapt. And then all you have to do is come up with the written content and images. And then it looks clean and professional, and that's what I'm using here. And you just upload that template when you're ready to create the slideshow. But a slideshow alone could take you 2 or 3 days, because you got to outline it, you got to write up the content, you got to find images that work. And that, if you lollygag over images like I do, it could take a while. All right. So on to step number 13. Don't be afraid of paid advertising. You got to test the waters sometime. And Facebook is fantastic, because you can tell them, I only want to spend $10 a day to test the waters. And so what if you don't know how to build an audience? You don't know what the hell you're doing. Give it a little test drive. And I, of course, can help you with all that. But if it's a small budget, just make a mistake. So what if it's $10 a day? You spend $100, you learn something. The most important thing to know about Facebook marketing is that you've got to make sure you're in front of the right audience. And that's I'm pretty good at, eagle eye on that, building an audience for you. And that could be helpful to hire someone like me to build the audience. So then you're putting that ad in front of the right person. Or I just set up the whole thing, and then or have someone set up the whole thing. Then you just copy what they're doing, what you could do. But don't be afraid to do, I find it fun. Facebook advertising is fun because people respond right away. It's nice to get immediate response. It's like, oh, what's working, what's not working. So you got to get visibility somehow. How are you going to do it? That's my question. This is one way. Another way is to blog about your webinar. You definitely want to write a blog about your webinar, especially if you have a lot of traffic or you have any followers. If you don't have followers, blogging, is not going to help you so much, but you can share that blog to your Facebook posts. It's just another way to social share. So one way to social share is just to share the link to your blog about the event. Another way to social share is to upload an image that represents that webinar well, and then write about it, and then link them back to the blog or a registration page. So the blog could act as your registration page as well, because you're going to outline what it's all about. You're not necessarily going to dive into lead pages and buy templates for all of this right away. You don't need to, but eventually it's helpful to have something like that helps you convert better. Next up, use those calendaring tools that I just showed you. In lead pages, those tools are built in where people can automatically add you to their calendar, and it populates that for them. I've used Eventbrite. Has everyone here used Eventbrite or been invited to it? No? Okay. Eventbrite.com is a platform for posting an event. And it kind of acts like a registration. It does allow people to register for your event. So it could act like a lead page. And it is available for free use. that then you would send out that Eventbrite link for people to register, and then Eventbrite has the calendaring tool that will auto-populate their calendar as to when your webinar is. So is everyone kind of following what that calendaring, what I'm talking about with the calendaring tool?
My question would be, you've mentioned Eventbrite and Lead Pages, and those are kind of the same thing, but you would only use one or the other.
You could use, well, Eventbrite is free, so you could use both.
Okay.
And Eventbrite has the opportunity to advertise, I believe, and get in front of especially if you can work with people nationwide, Eventbrite, I think, has the opportunity to advertise that event in their network or something. I'm not sure. I didn't go that far with it. Has anyone else here done that? Cheryl or Rita? Anyone used Eventbrite?
No.
No?
I just signed up for it today. It came up on my Facebook page.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, so go check out Eventbrite. That's a great place to start. Lead Pages, you got to really be serious about running paid ads to use Lead Pages because it's kind of expensive. You want it to pay for itself. I think Lead Pages now has the $30 a month offering, though I pay $70 a month for my Lead Pages. But Eventbrite, definitely use that as a beginner to create a registration page that has all the functionality that I'm talking about here, and then you share it in your network. And you also want to use the event tool in Facebook to create an event as well, because that will get in front of your following and your friends if you want it to get in front of them. And then you could then share that link inside of Facebook. Say, here's my next event. And if you are in my Mind, Body, Spirit Facebook group, you see my events. I'm not, I don't get notices. I don't know if you guys are noticing when you get notices of those events that I post in Facebook. Does anyone here remember seeing them? Deborah, do you see them when they come up?
I do see them.
Are they coming up in your news feed or in like the top right corner, or do you know?
Both.
Both, okay. You interact more than others, so I think you'll see it in your news feed, whereas people that aren't participating in the group won't necessarily see it, because that's how Facebook works. So they're going to show it to whoever is interacting there. But in any event, it's at least an easy way to share that event in another way for free. Next up. Now, this is a little different than having a co-host. I want you to partner with another brand or relevant business. And an example for me would be, I have a friend who's also the leader of a Meetup group here in Boulder who is a branding coach. And same with Stephanie Vinton. I would partner with her as well to do webinars, because I am wanting to help people grow their business. And Stephanie is a good match for me to partner with her to do kind of like a mixed breed webinar. And Jessie May is also a great partner, because I understand the need for personal branding and to have clear, concise messages. And I, in fact, one day I'm going to bring her in to give a webinar, because I want you to see what she has to offer and the importance of personal branding. So that would be a relevant alliance. And you want to think about that for your own business. How can you partner with somebody else who now has their own list to market to? And I have my list. And now we got two lists going to build presence at a webinar. This is why all these summits are popping up everywhere. Everyone's collaborating and sharing these summits with their own list. And Jessie May's been doing that recently, I noticed. And that's how you really amp up what you're trying to do, is to collaborate with someone who's already got a list that you can add value to in some way. And for beginners like you, like Deborah, you'd be a beginner in all this because you haven't quite decided what you're going to do. You could provide the meditation side of maybe a yoga studio webinar. I don't know. there's ways for that you would partner with someone where you would have to be adding value because you don't really have a list yet. So there's got to be something else you can provide to kind of beef up that partnership. So that's another great way to get, the word out and try to get people to register for your webinar. And lastly is use your website. If you have a busy homepage on your website, you're going to want to have like one little block that's always got your upcoming webinars. And I have them once a week now, so it makes sense for me to put it on my homepage or somewhere and my homepage isn't appropriate for what I want to be doing, but that's okay. If I were to promote your webinars, which by the way is another opportunity here to get you guys going, is that I can put your webinars in front of the Mind, Body, Spirit Network's audiences. And that would be a good partnership as long as you can work with people remotely. If you have a local business, not so much. So you want to use your own website to promote this. Now, I'm going to stop sharing. Oh, hold on. Here is your ultimate. Can you guys read the bottom of that? Or is my bar? Yeah, the Mind, Body, Spirit Network webinar checklist. And Cheryl, if you want to share that link, they can just click on it. If you'll do that. Cheryl's going to share that in the chat box so you guys can click on it. And what time are we at? I can't see my clock. How are we doing on time?
11:58.
What's that?
11:58. Oh,
so almost, okay. So I'm on time. Good. All right. So I want everyone to take a look at that. So this webinar is really about getting people to show up. It's not about developing the webinar. And then that webinar checklist is going to give you all the things you need to do to get started. Now, something I didn't talk about here is an important aspect of that whole thing is developing a topic for the webinar and then developing what the next step is for people. Like, if you're here to sell something, great. You got to come up with a product or an offering. If you just want to generate leads and book appointments for consultation, that's fine too. It doesn't always have to be selling at all. It's just opportunity to have a conversation is a good thing for webinars. Hold on one second. So this is just an example. During a webinar, you'd have a next step like I'm showing here, which I don't really have a next step, but I kind of do. You're going to ask a question. Are you ready to get the help you need to do this? This could be the end of your webinar after you've shared that Swell Prize. And that's the end of my webinar. So my next step would be, I'm putting together, take me from no idea to webinar launch in 12 weeks. That would be, 8 to 12 weeks. I'm going to have a program. And I'm serious. I think I'm going to do it. If you guys want it. To take you through the whole step, because a big part of that is determining what that webinar topic is going to be and putting it together. That's a big step first. And how do you engage people every step of the way and not lose them getting distracted, surfing the net, or leaving? A lot of people leave in the middle of a webinar, which is good information to know. So I'm going to stop sharing the screen here because Cheryl, I also want you to share the link to the HubSpot. There's a HubSpot link. This is where I got the outline for this presentation. And they also helped with the webinar checklist. And I just kind of verified the steps that I took with them so that you have that. So that link to HubSpot is a blog post about 17 ways to guarantee nobody misses your next webinar. So you have that. And then inside of those, there are more links to take you to other places. And HubSpot is a big they help you with your marketing. It's a little more sophisticated than Lead Pages even, or similar, but a little more sophisticated. It's managing email contacts. It's managing landing pages. It's doing a lot, kind of like Infusionsoft is a sophisticated marketing tool. That's what they're doing. And any questions? That's it for today. And I'm going to stop the recording, and then you guys, well, I don't have to. Any more questions on that?
Great information, Liz.
I hope you found it helpful.
Thank you.
And
yeah, very good.
cool. So I am considering putting together a class. Would there be any interest here? Raise your hand if you have interest in having me take you from webinar topic to full-blown webinar and all the marketing that is required in between.
Sounds interesting.
Okay.
Sounds interesting.
Yeah, all right.
Probably.
Well, we'll see.
Liz, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
And the business decision you've made to do online versus in-person training.
Why did I decide that?
Yes, why? I'm just curious about that. Why you don't even do like a mixture of it?
Well, I have given a few live presentations, which I love to do. Getting speaking engagements, however, requires some effort that I don't know that I want to put out that much. It's a lot of effort, right?
Okay.
As you're finding, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I did consider doing a local meetup group in the Denver area, but I honestly can't commit to staying here is the problem. I don't know that I want to stay here, and I've only been here a year and a half. So that's why I didn't want to commit to that and then up and leave. So I'm like, well, online's a good solution. And when I did an online meetup with another group that invited me to do it, I'm like, oh my God, this is fun. I like the Zoom platform, and I like that people are all over the country, and it's easier for people to show up and not have to travel too is another part of the equation. Even though I do like my in-person things as well. I like them both. This is just easier to get the gig since I'm the host.
Yeah.
And realize that I don't have to, I'm not here to train people in advanced marketing. It's just simple tips to get you going. And then I'm here to help execute if you decide to move forward. You know, that's really what I'm doing. Is I'm finding that many of my people that watch me, like, can you do that for me? Yes. That's what's going on here. So
Liz, Rita had added to the chat, appreciate the work you have done to pull this together. I have 3, maybe 4 people who are ready for the product you are proposing.
okay.
And I'm not quite sure, you know, to what degree she means that. So if maybe she could provide some more detail.
Yeah, I can email her. I think
Okay.
it must be the webinar training thing.
Okay.
You know, just to get you guys, because when you look at that checklist, you're like, okay, now what? I mean, really,
Right.
we really could review the checklist. That's a different list than what I'm just doing. There's crossover between the checklist and what I just did, but anyway. Dagmar, welcome to you missed the thing. That's okay.
What did I miss?
You missed the whole thing.
What whole thing?
She was here.
Oh, you were?
I was,
Oh, I just
thought
didn't
it was-
see her. I'm
no,
sorry.
I thought it was start. Didn't we just start at 10?
No. 9.
You kidding?
No,
Oh my God! Are you serious?
I'm serious.
Is there a
A recording.
replay?
Yeah, I have the recording. I'll send out Dagmar. So
Oh
you
my gosh! I don't know why I put it at 10 o'clock this morning.